Et vous pouvez aussi aller sur le Décodex, Hoaxbuster, Check News, Les Observateurs, Vrai ou Fake. Ce sont tous des sites qui recensent les fake news, les rumeurs. Comparez, variez les sources. Regardez ce que les autres médias disent sur un sujet. Si aucun journal, aucune chaîne de télé, aucune radio n'a parlé d'une info, eh bien c'est probablement qu'elle est fausse.
I'm Judy-Ann Denson-Gerber. I am a psychiatrist and a lawyer and have been practicing since 1967. At that time, my major interest was in drug abuse, and I founded the Odyssey House programs across the United States, in Australia, New Zealand, and in Hong Kong. By 1985, however, I began to see a new phenomenon. And that phenomenon was that the patients that I was seeing, many of whom had dissociative disorders, post-traumatic stress, which I've talked about, but also multiple personality, and therefore could only remember fragments of what had happened to them, but these fragments were coming out in their 30s, began to remember ritualistic cult abuse. And to my sadness, having been a religious major in college, I realized that there were many people who used their children in the worship of the Prince of Darkness, Satan, Lucifer, Isis, which is an Egyptian princess of darkness, actually, married to the king of the underworld, and that we had many, many victims of this type of activity. Someone who had knew that this was my field and knew that there were implications of ritual and satanic cult abuse in the Nebraska Franklin Credit Union scandal and embezzlement of funds, and that the major witness in that, Paul Benassi, happened to be a victim himself at a very early age of child molestation, had been a boy prostitute, had been in porn pictures, had also, according to his statements, participated in 5 cult murders, and was a multiple personality, very much like Sybil is the one that I'm sure most people will know, 3 Faces of Eve, that because he was a multiple personality, and since I was an expert in disassociation and multiplicity, would I see him for the purposes of whether or not he was credible.
La psychiatre et avocate Judy-Ann Denson-Gerber a bien confirmé que Paul Bonacci souffrait d'un trouble dissociatif de l'identité. Il ne s'agit pas d'une psychose, dit-elle, mais d'une névrose résultant du mécanisme de défense de l'esprit d'un enfant, une fonction visant à le protéger de l'atrocité inimaginable. C'est en tout 3 psychiatres qui ont examiné Paul Bonacci et qui ont tous validé le diagnostic du trouble de la personnalité multiple.
I am able to give full and complete information about activities and events that have occurred in any of the personalities who have fully integrated into myself. The information sometimes is not complete because there's still other personalities who have not been integrated, and even when they're co-conscious, are not able at the spur of the moment to give details because while I'm giving my information and their thoughts coming in, it overloads the system and it creates a headache, and then that makes me unable to access memory.
Le 29 décembre 1990, le docteur Denson-Gerber a témoigné devant le comité législatif Franklin de Omaha. Elle a été interrogée par Robert Krieger à propos de Paul Bonacci. Docteur, je crois que le grand jury est arrivé à la conclusion que M. Bonacci n'était pas capable de mentir. Avez-vous un commentaire à faire sur ce sujet ? Je pense qu'il serait très difficile pour M. Bonacci de mentir. Lorsque vous avez une personnalité multiple, vous n'avez pas besoin de mentir, ou changer, c'est-à-dire de personnalité. Il n'y a rien que M. Bonacci ne m'ait dit que je n'avais pas déjà entendu venant d'autres patients ou individus. Ce ne sont pas des élucubrations, et il avoue souvent lui-même qu'il ne sait pas. Il n'a rien fabriqué, il n'essaye pas de donner des réponses comme le font la plupart des gens qui veulent plaire. Il ne veut même pas vous donner l'impression qu'il veut plaire.
And testify that there were other personalities that weren't present at the deposition or weren't integrated, and you now have new memories about facts.
Not new memories, they're old memories that simply have not been stated before. And I am not Paul right now, I am Wesley.
Why are you Wesley now?
Because I am tired of you people doing this to him. I was attempting to make everything go away all of the time. I don't care about any of this stuff.
Why are you here then?
Why? Because I'm tired of what you're doing to Paul. I'm tired of what you're doing to him.
What is it that we're doing to Paul?
What is it that you're doing to him? You're questioning him, you're sitting there saying things that don't make any sense.
Do you understand, Wesley, that Paul brought this lawsuit? This is Paul's lawsuit.
No, Paul didn't bring a lawsuit.
Who brought the lawsuit?
Mikey brought the lawsuit.
Why is the name on the petition and the complaint listed as Paul?
Because we had to go under Paul Bonassi's name because he's the body.
Well, who's Mikey?
Mikey's a personality who contains more information than Paul ever did, because Paul's life was just like nothing.
So the defendants and the jurors are not going to be able to rely on the reliability of what Paul's told us?
Yes, they are. What I'm saying is that Mikey is the one who, in fact, started relating memories in 1986. He is the one who went to NPI. He is the one who started telling the police everything. That is why, from 1986 till the time I graduated, people called me Mike and not Paul. Paul couldn't understand why people called him Mike. But Paul's information that he has given is true and is accurate because he has gotten all the information from the other personalities that have integrated with him.
Voici ce que le docteur Denson Gerber a rédigé suite à sa visite de Bonacci en prison, car celui-ci fut en effet condamné pour parjure. Un comble. Petit 1, il a une mémoire et des détails extraordinaires, faisant de lui un précieux témoin. Petit 2, il ne ment pas. Petit 3, il a décrit précisément des rituels sataniques pratiqués de façon internationale par les sectes, une chose qu'il lui était impossible de connaître sans y avoir lui-même participé. Il décrit une de ses personnalités comme une puce d'ordinateur dans sa tête qui lui permet de maintenir une attention obsessionnelle sur les détails. Il peut vous donner des dates et des horaires d'une extrême précision. Je n'ai jamais vu un enfant capable de faire cela. Il est donc un témoin précieux. Il n'invente pas. Il dira plutôt « je ne sais pas » s'il ne sait véritablement pas.
As I got to know more about Bonassi, and he wrote me letters, and I listened to his descriptions of the rites of the different sects that he had been in, of the killings, of who performed the fetal Eucharist, which is the actual drinking of the blood and eating or cannibalizing of the child or the newborn or the abortus, or an adult in some instances. I discovered that everything he said fit into, one would say, the traditional rites of the Antichrist sects. It would be the same in Rome, and in England, and in France, and in Australia, and in China, and wherever Roman Catholicism were practiced. Well, the Satanists do the same thing, so that when they are performing certain rites, they have the dagger, and it's a similar dagger throughout the world, with which they do the killings. They have the communion plate, which has certain markings on it. They have the chalice. They have the stilo or stiletto, with which a newborn's child is punctured. Heart is punctured by the mother, actually, of this child. And that mother can be as young as 12 or 13, which is very frightening. And then she draws out that blood. There is other rituals which he discussed, and only certain priests or certain levels in the hierarchy are permitted to do those rituals, and he knew every single ritual correctly and who was to do them. So there was no doubt in my mind that he had intimate personal knowledge.
John de Camp dit avoir parlé avec plusieurs des personnalités altères de Paul Bonacci. Il a décrit comment son style d'écriture varie selon l'alter qui est au contrôle, et comment les mémoires peuvent également varier d'un alter à l'autre. Bonacci a même une personnalité qui parle et écrit l'allemand, alors qu'il n'a quasiment pas fait d'études. Les psychiatres qui ont travaillé avec lui ont rapporté que ces différentes personnalités étaient incapables de mentir, et qu'elles avaient une mémoire photographique ultra performante. Il semblerait que Bonacci ait subi depuis tout petit un programme de contrôle mental basé sur les traumatismes, dans le but d'en faire un esclave monarque. Des enquêteurs ont rapporté que le réseau qui l'avait plongé dans le satanisme était centré à la base militaire de Offutt, à côté de Omaha, une base importante de l'armée de l'air. C'est là qu'il était transporté pour être violenté sexuellement lorsqu'il n'avait que 3 ans, au début des années 70. À Ofut et plus tard dans d'autres installations militaires, le réseau l'a entre guillemets entraîné, c'est-à-dire programmé par la torture, la drogue et la violence sexuelle dans le but de le former militairement, y compris pour les assassinats. Il s'agissait donc de fractionner sa personnalité par les traumatismes, pour ensuite le programmer. Paul Bonacci est une de ces nombreuses victimes, proie du réseau, ayant été soumise à des programmes de MK. L'éclatement de l'affaire Franklin dans les tribunaux a permis de dévoiler publiquement son témoignage. Mais combien d'autres victimes restent prisonnières dont la parole ne sera jamais entendue ?
What triggered the arrival or development or birth of your personality, West Lee, in 1974?
I cannot give that information under direct orders.
Orders by whom?
I cannot say.
Mr. DeCamp, would you please instruct your client when he has to answer these questions?
Yes. You're supposed to answer these questions. Does this have to do with Monarch?
Yes.
If I use the code, will that help? Which I just obtained in the last hour. D6413782, program XPY Eagle Alex Hope. Please go ahead and answer all questions.
I was created by a government program,
Which government program?
Monarch.
And what is Monarch?
Monarch is an operation that was created by the United States government to create spies for other countries. They use children for the purpose that they are easily integrated into multiple personalities because they can dissociate. Monarch is a program that is run by Michael Angelo Aquino, who was an Army Reserve colonel at Presidio. He is also the leader of the Temple of Set. He also runs a child daycare center. He also is involved in human sacrifice.
Is he employed by the United States?
Yes,
At what facility?
Presidio, California.
Is that in San Francisco area? Presidio
Yes.
Naval Base?
Yes.
Do you know what rank Michael Aquino holds?
He was a colonel.
Is he currently employed there?
I am not aware of the current situation.
Now, describe the program again, the Monarch program.
Monarch, as I said, was a program that used children to make multiple personalities for future use as spies and as a way to take over the United States government. The personalities were created at the first.
Who was intending to take over the United States government?
I do not know that information.
Did you understand Mr. Aquino to be working on behalf of the United States or against the United States?
I believed he was working on behalf of the United States.
So some segment of the United States was trying to take over the United States government?
The plan that Aquino had in it was he wanted to usher in the Antichrist, which is talked about in the Bible.
This was a government-sponsored program?
Yes.
Okay. You were 7 years old at the time that you were recruited?
I was actually 3 years old when it first began, but I was not created until later on.
Who created you?
I was created by Monarch.
Do you mean Mr. Aquino? Who in Monarch created you?
I was created by Monarch. I do not know who.
What were you told when you were 4 years old that you recall now about the Monarch program?
When I first got involved, I was molested by an airman from Offutt Air Force Base who was involved in Monarch. His job was to recruit kids from the local neighborhood who he could make dissociate by doing traumatic things to them at a very young age. Later on, when they get to school age, they would simply pick me up at school, and I would simply miss a day or two for training.
Now, is it your testimony that there was a United States plan or plot which intended to create multiple personality syndrome or dissociative personalities in children?
Yes, to my knowledge.
And that you were a victim of a plot of the United States, and that's when your multiple personalities first began to develop?
Yes.
When did you become aware that you were part of Monarch?
I knew that I was aware of Monarch the whole time, as Wesley.
From 4 years old forward,
At my creation.
1974.
Yes.
So that would be from 7 years forward. You were aware of the creation of Wesley and the plan and the concept of the United States to cause you to dissociate.
Yes.
And now, what is your understanding of the reason that Monarch wanted children with dissociative disorders or multiple personality disorders?
Because if one was captured in the future spying, the personality or the person that was captured would go into a personality that would have no useful information. There would be other personalities that would come out that would render the person to seem hallucinatory or to seem as if he was indeed crazy. In fact, their program, which was named Star Wars, was in fact a program in which we were taken aboard so-called alien spacecrafts which were in tunnels in Colorado, which were not real spaceships, nor were they real aliens. We were simply induced with drugs so that we would not render reality to anything that we would see. And later on, if we ever related this information, it would come out and appear as if we were crazy.
So you were trained actually to be a spy
Yes.
on behalf of the program known as Monarch,
Yes.
for the purpose of ultimately taking over the government of the United States.
Yes.
And the reason that you were, and the reason that the individuals in charge of the program wanted children with dissociative personalities or multiple personalities was so that they would not reveal the information that they gathered, if captured, in one of their other personas.
Yes, if captured or in any other normal activities.
Were you paid for your work in Monarch?
No.
How long did you work for Monarch?
I do not consider it working for them. I consider it more or less them being in control of me. From as I said, probably 1970 until 1990.
Are you currently controlled by Monarch?
Yes.
Are you fearful of the consequences of what you have revealed here today?
Yes.
Have you felt threatened in the past by the members of Monarch?
Yes.
And when did you start feeling threatened by members of Monarch?
From the breakdown of the multiple personality system, which happened in 1986, which allowed me to start revealing memories that other personalities contained about abuses.
So once the breakdown started to occur, you became fearful that you were at risk because of that breakdown.
Yes,
Has anyone from Monarch ever contacted you since 1986?
yes.
Who has contacted you from Monarch?
I cannot reveal that because I do not know what their names are.
They use code names.
Yes.
What are some of the code names that people use?
The Eagle.
What has the Eagle done that has been threatening?
The Eagle makes phone calls that initiate hypnotic suggestive personalities, which are not real personalities, that were programmed in by Monarch. And what these codes that he says to me when he calls make the other personality or the suggestion come to pass, whereas I will do something in that personality and will not remember it at all in any other personality. It will be forgotten, and I won't even have a record of it as myself.
You don't believe that Monarch is in any way involved in any kind of conspiratorial activity that involves child abuse or
I
any of your other allegations?
I know that they involve with child abuse because they have a lot of schools where they train girls to be prostitutes and boys, as myself in the early days.
Who programmed
that were
you?
not involved. I was programmed by Monarch.
Who?
That includes psychiatrists from Offutt Air Force Base.
Who is that?
I do not know. They never allowed us to know names except for our direct controller, which was Bill Clemens. I only knew of a Colonel Aquino because I was also involved in the Temple of Set.
When were you programmed?
I was programmed beginning in 1974.
Were you trained in the area of prostitution and homosexuality?
Yes,
And where did that training take place?
Offutt Air Force Base.
And did that also occur in 1974?
Yes,
And how long a period of time did that training last?
roughly 1974 until 1980.
So during those years, you received periodic training about homosexuality and about prostitution.
Yes,
Anything else that you've received training on?
yes.
What?
How to photograph documents in my mind to be able to relate that information to deprogrammers at a later date. When they program the personalities, or the triggers, as I call them,
Uh-huh.
they would call me up and they would use a code. I would simply switch into that trigger, go to where they told me to go, whether it would be or get on an airplane because they would already have the tickets there. They would have the tickets there under a name that only that trigger would know, and go to wherever it was. There would be somebody waiting for them in that city and take them to wherever it was that they were supposed to go, bring them back to the airport, put them on the plane. They would come back home, and as soon as they walked in the door, the memory of everything that had just happened would be erased
Gone.
completely.